Formerly suicidal Redditors, what's something that kept you alive a little while longer and helped you to get through the dark times in your lives? My friends. I've attempted 7 times and I've decided that I'm never going to again. I know there are always people who will let you talk. If it weren't for my friends I'd be gone by now. Especially my one friend who we'll call Zed, has made me feel like I'm on the ride to something important. Zed is probably the craziest person I've ever met, yet the one I've related to the most. Today he shared this thread with me and then told me I matter a ton to him and make him happy to live. Today's been a really rough day because I've been arguing with my girlfriend, and have been having nightmares and recurring memories of the death of one of my former friends. Just randomly out of the blue he sent me this and I cried. I haven't for a long time and I normally suppress my feelings, but I shed tears. Zed, I just wanna say you're one of the most important people in my life and I can't wait until I can see you again and do stupid shit, making my boring life happy, together. You're my homie and I know I don't do stuff with you sometimes, but I want you to know that whenever I take a step back and look at my life, you always make up a massive portion of it. Even if sometimes we get ourselves in a shit ton of trouble, I'm always happy when I'm with you. The thought of failing to actually commit suicide is the only thing that keeps me from committing it when I'm actively suicidal. One night I got drunk and my husband accidentally parked me in, and that kept me from acting on a plan I had. Bipolar disorder fucking sucks. Working out saved me. Lift heavy rock makes sad head voice go away. I always think of my friend Carl I met in Hawaii. Carl used to live in Denver and his wife divorced him and took his house and his dog. He was sitting one day contemplating suicide and realized he never had been to Hawaii. This broke him out of his depression long enough to buy a ticket. He eventually made it to a farm I was working at on Maui. Despite being 50, he fit in immediately. Carl was a mechanic and we needed a mechanic. Carl was a hard worker and we needed hard workers. Carl could weld and we needed a welder. He eventually got into a relationship with a French-Canadian girl and lived in a nice trailer on the property. I ran into him on Kauai 10 years later and he had his own construction business. So, all of that amazing life was waiting ahead for him. All he had to do was take the first step. Realizing I love sunsets, and I want to see more. Realizing it's not that I want to die, but that I want to have never existed in the first place. Honestly, steak. I know, that's weird. Steak tastes good though, and I used to think, if I do this, I'll never have steak or any food, ever again. Steak helped a lot. And by steak I mean women. I like women. Edit, no but seriously, it was steak. Don't know why. I had a list of people that I thought would care if I died, and every morning I'd get up, stare into the mirror in my bathroom, and recite the list of people. I'm very easily swayed by guilt, and the guilt I felt when thinking of making them sad was enough to keep me alive for that day. I was sure they'd all be better off without me, but I also knew that they'd be horribly sad if I died and didn't want to be the cause of that sadness for the people I loved the most. It kept me going until I finally got up the nerve to tell a doctor about my depression. 2 things. How fucked up my family and friends will be. It might not work and I'll be forced to live the rest of my life just as depressed, plus a disability of some sort. My mom would have killed herself if she hadn't found out she was going to be a grandmother. She doesn't ever say it, but I know that's why she's still here. She's always struggled with depression, and was right on the verge after my brother committed suicide, but her granddaughter gave her a reason to keep going when nothing else did. My niece. She was 7 when her grandpa died and I was the one to walk her through her first panic attack. It was mid-service, she started to have it and I recognized the signs. I scooped her up, took her to the bathroom, and got her to the other side of it. In my darkest moment, I knew I couldn't be the one to cause her that pain. Family obligations, especially holidays, are my biggest source of stress. I also fear killing myself and ruining my family's happy holidays. So I put on a strong face and try not to bother anyone during the holidays. The minute Christmas is over, I have so much relief that I feel better till Thanksgiving approaches. Dog. Fear of failing and ending a vegetable. My daughter was on vacation with her children. I didn't want to ruin her vacation. You have much to offer. Even if you don't know it. You have a greater purpose in this life and you are here for a reason. I used to remind myself these things throughout the day. When I was suicidal, I tried killing myself about 5 times but got scared and didn't fully go through with them. I decided it wouldn't help anything and would cause my mother and cousin. My cousin is a person who thinks of me as an older brother, be depressed if I ever fully went through with it. So I didn't do it and seeked help, but the help I received was just people who wanted my money, so I decided to not get any help. So without professional help I decided to spend time with my mother and cousin and talk to them about it. Slowly I started to get better until I forgot about the idea of suicide. The reasoning was that my father used my mother for money and verbally abused me and her. He was also currently cheating on my mother. Recently in 2018 he wanted to cross over into America, he's Salvadorian, and asked for money from my mom and took her monthly paycheck only to break up with her with all of her money in his pocket. He used me and my mom for his personal gain and didn't even think of me as a human but only as a source of money. I honestly hope he goes to hell to suffer forever for what he's done. I have gotten way better and actually feel happy now, so thank you Mom for everything you've done to help me. Hope all of you have a good day or night. Pokemon. I'm here because of that goddamn Pokedex. When I had my dark times, a friend of mine, she was also a psychologist, told me to stay affixed to something. She gifted me some games that I had to play as therapy. The goal was to keep me doing something to ignore everything else, and it worked. I used to live in a very bad place, and this helped me endure shit until I was able to leave. Now I have this tradition of completing 100% of any game that someone gifts me. The friends I surround myself. I became suicidal because of my toxic religious family. And when I feel I had enough of my life, they were there to pick me up and show me there is more. One time my best friend found out I'll finally do it and bolted through 10 kilometers from her house to mine just to slap me across my face and hugged me till the morning came. My stepmom committed suicide in 2016. I had ideas before and since then, but ever since then, after having lived through what it was like when she passed, I promised myself that I would never do that to my friends and family. I learned too much to even begin to write from her passing, but most importantly I learned the value in keeping going, because since then there's been a lot of good things to happen that I'm glad I didn't miss out on. I've shared this before, but it was my dog. I love her. She's my favorite person / place / thing on earth. The idea that I wouldn't get to see her or she couldn't understand I was gone was just too much. It was enough of a wake-up call for me to seek help. It didn't help, more like a guilt trip to grit my teeth through the mental anguish, but I couldn't do it to my parents. And drugs. I swear, partying, ecstasy, weed, LSD, mushrooms, a few friends, and a couple of crazy who gives a fuck wild decisions. I'm moving to California with only $3,000 in a week, helped me feel truly alive again. I still suffer from depression, but I've found my way in life, even successful, but in a very strange, unique way, all my own, against all odds. I had video games. Yes, I believe this was the one thing that kept me alive. Music. Mostly Megadeth. Learned guitar by trying to play their music. Used it to fight depression and the dark thoughts in my head. Years later and I'm engaged, hardly depressed or sad and still playing guitar. I lived alone with my one beagle. He saved my life more than once. I won't put down details, but I couldn't find the reason to live. It took everything I had just to get out of bed. So I saved what little money I had and fostered a near-starved kitten and bottle-fed it until it was old enough for canned food. I had to litter train it and teach it how to groom itself because he didn't have a mom cat to show him how. I thought if I couldn't live for myself, then I would live so the kitten would live, because without me it would die. It's been 5 years now and my kitten is all grown up. I use him as my profile pic and life eventually turned around for me. I fixed a good portion of everything that gave me depression, and I even got married this passing summer. I still have days that are difficult, but they are nothing compared to how I felt 5 years ago. If anyone could take away from my experiences that you just have to keep trying. No matter how hard or hopeless things seem, try to find even one thing you can dedicate yourself to and slowly work on your problems one step at a time.